What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about the altcoin market today. The reason why we're talking about it today is because I think that we're at a very pivotal moment for altcoins. We have seen the birth of alt season take place over the past, few weeks now. The beginning of this month or the beginning of the month of July. It's August now. It's actually the 3rd of August now. We've seen the birth of all season happen, and now we've seen a little bit of a pullback. We're down about 12% this week so far. Volatility happens, man. And in fact, a 12% pullback for altcoins, that's nothing. That ain't nothing, you guys. In a week's time, yeah, that ain't nothing. 20%, 30%, 60% pullbacks, those are on the way, and we're even going to go higher than that. You know what I mean? Like we're going to have those kind of pullbacks as we start to really progress here, and we will progress. That's why we're talking about this. That's why we're talking about altcoins and using the other chart to do so. So if that sounds good to you, hit the like button, subscribe. Let's get into it. Okay, so here we are. As I said, it's August 3rd. We have about 10 hours and 24 minutes left in this day, in this week as well. The week's about to close. I think that by the end of this day, by the end of this week, we'll pull up a little bit. We'll have a bit of a wick to the downside here, and we'll start really moving up higher. From a relative low to a relative high, we've reached for the 382, reached for it. We got so close, but we couldn't actually hit it. That is actually a very bullish thing, okay? It's not common. Typically, whenever you go below the 236 in this fashion, you go to the 382. You don't. There's no other, and the 382 is this yellow line right here at $251 billion. There's no exceptions. You rarely see a moment like this, but this is actually more bullish than if you interacted with the 382. The only thing to do now is to close above the 236. Okay, it is still possible, and again, as I was saying, it's very uncommon to do this. If we were to come back down and go to the 382, it's very possible. We'll go over the situations and the indicators and see if there's any kind of lower lows to be had. But I have a strong feeling that either this is the low or we're very near the low one way or another. And I think that it is the low. I'm leaning toward that side right now. If we're looking at this, not just with that low to high fib, but if we take the high to low fib, I wonder what we'll find here. High to low. Perfect, right? If you've been following my channel even for a month, let alone the years that we've been here, from a low to a high, finding resistance at the golden ratio, typically you come down and you find support at the 0.5 to 382. So that's perfect. And the higher up that we go in the next 10 hours, 23 minutes, the more of a wick that we show, the more powerful this bottom will appear to be. But in all fairness, our last relative low that we had discernible low had a wick very similar to this, and we moved straight up afterwards anyways. So, we're a week away from being back to where we were before, a week away from people being like, oh, it's not the bear market. Alt season is actually happening, right? Everybody a week ago, 2 weeks ago was shouting from the mountaintops. They were saying altcoin season is here, alt season is here, it's up only time, and they're very quiet now. Or now it's like doom and gloom, but that's not. We're not in doom and gloom times, you guys. We're going to be moving up here. I want to look at some weekly indicators and then get into the short-term stuff. We'll zoom back out. Weekly indicators on the MACD here. Looking at the MACD, we're in a position where we could either reject the zero, which would be very bad, that would put a stop to alt season, or where we cross above the zero, which would be very good. That would be very productive for alt season coming into play. We've done this twice already this cycle. What happened both of those times that we've crossed above the zero? Well, we saw weeks and months of growth. Here we saw about a month and a half, like 5 weeks worth of growth the last time. So here we are, not even crossed above the zero yet. We're gonna get some again this week here. That was like right when we started to cross above the zero. So here, maybe starting this week, we'd be crossing above the zero. We've got all of August, likely bleeding into September, and even further months of growth to come. If this truly is the start of alt season, we're not stopping in September. We're not stopping it. I mean, maybe a momentary stop, right? Like you did here, maybe something like this, right? But we're going to continue to rally, and if we're continuing to rally, through August, September, whatever, we're going to be seeing new highs, new all-time highs in this chart. We're going to really rally. We're going to rally like we haven't rallied since the last cycle, right? Since the peak alt season last cycle. And on that note, from a high to a low. Actually, let's get into this later. I want to get into the short-term stuff, okay? And then we'll finish with the good stuff. Let's see. 1 hour time frame. I thought I heard a fly, but I think it was just a plane going on outside. $270 billion right now, 1 hour time frame, getting overbought. That's very bullish. That's a good look. You can see that we've had a massive turnaround here in the 1 hour time frame. I'm going to get rid of the volume because it's kind of irrelevant and it's distracting, I think. There's already enough distractions. Stochastics getting overbought is a good thing. MACD crossing above the zero. Now, we've had all this happen before. We were getting into the overbought zone here, had a nice rally. We were overbought in the stochastics and crossing above the zero before, and that was right before the dip. I think this time's different. I really do think that this time is different. I don't think that we're going to continue to drop back down. What we're looking for now is either deeper overbought readings and even bouncing off the 50 area to the 60 area in the RSI. Something in this zone. We should be bouncing getting multiple iterations of getting overbought. Maybe we consolidate here and there, but we don't want to get back into the oversold zone. We want to stay in the overbought zone, stay away from the oversold zone, and that should allow us to grow over the coming days and weeks. Okay, but this is the 1 hour time frame, so more like the coming days. Everything looks good. We're at a point where we're about to cross the zero now, so I would expect, we got 10 hours left in the day. I would expect that we do see some pumps throughout the day for altcoins. With that being said, bearish momentum is dying off a little bit here. So if we consolidate a little bit, that's fine. But still, by the end of the day, in the next 10 hours, whatever your altcoin's at, this is the average altcoin, right? The other chart is the crypto total market cap, excluding the top 10. It's the top 125 coins. So excluding the top 10, it's the top 115 after the top 10. The average coin in that and even below should be seeing higher prices by the end of today, okay? Just from these indicators here, at least from my perspective. 4 hour time frame, typically with the stochastics, what you'll see is you'll see an oversold range to the overbought range to the oversold to the overbought to the oversold. It's very uncommon to do stuff like this where you get overbought and then you don't get oversold, but in bullish times that's what happens. It's very uncommon to get oversold and not hit the overbought zone and come back, but in very bearish times that's what happens, okay? It's also common in bearish times when you're in an uptrend, higher lows, higher highs, to correct, and whenever you correct, you typically see a 1, 2, 3-legged correction, right? It's a 1, 2, 3-legged correction. So corrective phases, we look at this here, Elliott correction wave. It's an A, oh, that was too low, B, C correction, right? It's a 1, 2, 3 correction. A, B, C. And that's perfect. That literally, that's perfect. That's how it looks. I bet the diagram even looks like that. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have that, but that's an ABC. It's literally perfect. That's how it should look. It's a very symmetrical look. ABC, classic correction. We have this little M pattern here. We're finding support right at prior areas of support, prior areas of resistance, prior areas of support as well. Looking great. Looking great. Honestly, it's a fantastic look overall. 4 hour time frame, looking at the indicators, you are in a downtrend in the RSI. You've got lower highs here from this high coming down, lower highs. You've got lower lows as well, right? But we're at the midpoint, the midpoint of this range here. I would think that at the very least we continue to grow. Maybe what we see is some kind of different behavior and then we break through, something like that, get into that overbought zone later this coming week, right? We're about to end this week, so we've got a whole brand new week to go, and I'm assuming that we will get into the overbought zone. And again, what you want to see for consistent growth and not just like a stunted move is overbought readings out of it, continuously getting into the overbought reading time and time again. So that way you produce a gradual move up, or even a very, very rigid, strong, powerful move up. Stochastics, typically they get into the overbought zone, so I would expect that we at least have a little bit more growth to go. With the downtrend in mind for this RSI, I would expect that we at least have a little bit more to grow. That agrees there. MACD just crossed green, so I would expect that we have a little bit more to grow. On the 4 hour time frame, this could imply growth over the next 10 hours, but more than that, likely it's probably going to be over the next 3 to 5 days we see some more growth, right? And then maybe over the weekend, next weekend, we consolidate again and then we come back up. That's kind of the name of the game there. It doesn't have to happen that way, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did. I'm expecting that we move up. I'm sorry I have to keep clearing my throat, man. The mornings drive me out. Hold on. They drive me out. I have this fan and I have it blowing all night and I feel like it drives me out. Honestly, I've noticed that. Like my mouth. Anyways, and I already got problems, man. I'm an asthmatic. Daily time frame. I kind of refute that though. I refuse to believe that though. I don't know if I'm an asthmatic, man. I think there's something else wrong with me. I think it's something that's diagnosable like asthma, but it's an asthma medication helps. But man, I can run. I can work out hard. It's not like it doesn't feel like it is a respiratory thing, but I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. It happened after COVID. You guys know that in the United States, and probably a lot of places, United States though, asthma rates in adults went up like 80%. Like after COVID, it was like 2021 to 2023, we saw the increased rate of diagnosed asthmatics in America go up from I want to say 8% to 13%, or maybe it was 7% to 14%. I can't remember. Like it went up a good bit. And I've talked to people. A lot of people actually have developed asthma after COVID, or they have symptoms like asthma and they had no idea. You wouldn't know if you're not a smoker, but if you've noticed some stuff with your respiratory stuff and you're not a smoker, it might be that you should get it checked out, right? It's only activated whenever I smoke, and I don't smoke cigarettes. I'm talking about the good stuff. You know what I mean? But here I am, months sober, not smoking, and still dealing with it. Anyways, there's fires. I'm more sensitive now too because of the smoke. But enough about me. Let's talk about you. Stochastics here on the daily time frame in the oversold zone, but you're looking like you want to cross out and come up again. Typically what you'll see is a oversold reading to an overbought reading to an oversold to an overbought. So this is a good signal that we're probably at the low point of our altcoin markets if we can get the orange line to cross above the stochastics into the band here. Typically you don't do stuff like this, but it happens, especially in bearish times, and we're in bearish times right now. But we're not, though. On the daily time frame, we're not in bearish times, right? We're really not in bearish times on the daily time frame at all. We're actually in a very bullish phase of consolidation. We've moved up here. We've got this kind of like bull flag look. I would think that we continue to rally. So I take it back. We're not in bearish times at all. Not by the looks of this. Stochastics, I would assume, go up to the overbought zone with that, right? Very bullish times. Look at what we were doing here with the overbought zone. RSI bouncing off the oversold zone, not even getting oversold, getting overbought. That's a good thing. When you do get oversold, it's very small. Daily MACD is looking like it wants to scoop this zero area here, and that's a very bullish sign as well. Whenever you find support at the zero line, I mean, that's a very powerful signal, you guys. We've done that before, and it promoted a lot of growth in a very short amount of time. Yeah, overall, I think what we're doing here is very, very constructive. There's something that I wanted to say, and I just forgot what it was. What was it? What was it? I don't remember. That's okay. High to low here. Man, the high from December 2024 all the way to, I was about to say, didn't we go just above the 382? Yeah, just above the 382. If we were to go lower, maybe, and I don't think this happens, but maybe the average altcoin drops like 7% from here, maybe, if we are to go lower at all. But I don't think that happens. And then we find support, and then we have an immaculate recovery. Again, typically what you see is rejection off this golden ratio area down to the 382.5 area like this, and then you'll come up to the 786, 886 area. So looking at that, assuming that from the current price, I would anticipate that between now and the next couple of weeks, probably, if not certainly in the next 3 weeks, 3 weeks to 2 weeks, I would say, 37% growth to 50% growth across the board. That's the standard. If you have a coin that over the next 2 to 3 weeks is doing more than 50% growth, you probably have an outperformer, a top performer of this cycle. That doesn't mean that you do. If your meme coin that's been dormant for a year finally pops off, that's not what that means, okay? But if it's a coin that's been relevant this cycle and been building and has been outperforming the market so far, and it does something that's more than a 50% move on this next move up by the end of August, then yes, yeah, you probably do have an outperformer, and you want to look for that kind of stuff, okay? So I would expect that we're up there by the end of the month, if not the middle of the month. And then going into the end of August and September, we should be reaching for higher prices. I'm anticipating, and then this is where the exciting stuff comes in, okay? I'm anticipating that the average altcoin by the end of September goes up to its 1,886,200 area. We're probably going to see something on the lines $1 trillion, right, in total market cap valuation, psychological area of resistance at $1 trillion. And there's a lot of altcoins that have targets of their 1,886,200, which makes sense if the others chart has targets up there as well. If we take a overall high to low from the last cycle as well, high to low here, the 1414 is right there, and typically with the 1414 you don't stop right at it, you actually go just above it. So just saying, I think that the average altcoin would see something between about a 3.8x between now and let's say the end of September, 3.8x to a 4.3x. That's the target area, 3.8 to 4.3x. I'm curious to see, what about last cycle? Let's just see if we're respecting these fibs still, because we haven't looked at this actually. Maybe we look good, maybe we don't look good. I mean, that 200 level, that 1,886,200 level is up here as well. That lines up with the golden ratio. Maybe we stop at the golden ratio. It's very possible. Even if we stop at the golden ratio, you guys, the minimum expectation would be still a 3x. So if you have an altcoin that's not doing a 3x between now and September, get rid of that altcoin, because it's not going to do you well between now and the end of the cycle, probably. Right? But 3x to 4.2x potential, 420. That's likely what's going to happen. I didn't plan that out, okay? It just happened. But that's likely what's going to happen between now and the end of September. Looking at the weekly indicators again, You know, the stochastics rejecting the overbought zone is not good, but in bullish circumstances, you do bounce off of the 50 area. Typically, you range, but in bullish circumstances, you don't. I think we're in rather bullish circumstances right now. RSI is chilling, looking productive, looking like it wants to continue to grow. MACD crossing above the 0 on the weekly, very bullish implications there. Monthly time frame. Oh, I remember what I wanted to look at now. Monthly time frame looks bullish on the stochastics, bullish on the RSI, bouncing off the 50. MACD is whatever. I wanted to look at the ribbons. Let's look at the ribbons in this video, okay? Looking at the monthly ribbon, first off, very bullish on the altcoin markets, absolutely. Last month, July, we did close with a rather robust move up out of the ribbon, so we can look to expand this ribbon now. We started off August to the downside. Typically, all these green months have wicks to the downside. It's very uncommon to have a green month without a wick to the downside like that month there, but it does happen. Starting off the month to the downside, which we're on the 3rd of August now, we already have, we've already gone down a little bit. That actually is a very beneficial thing, I think. It allows for us to get that wick and show more bullish candle as we progress through the month. Because then when we flip green here, it looks bullish. As we continue to flip green, it looks even more bullish. I think we've got some good stuff going on. Weekly ribbon here. Very neutral, right? Very, very neutral, but bullish overall. You look like you had some false crosses to the downside, which is actually a positive thing. You back tested the ribbon exactly. What is the ribbon, C-Zar? I've never seen this before. A lot of you probably have if you watch this channel, but it's the EMA ribbon, 20 to the 55. So it's your exponential moving averages. They're moving average lines, okay? Not simple moving averages, exponential moving averages. They're a little bit more malleable, let's say. The 20 is 20 iterations, right? It's like the average of 20 weeks. The 55 is the average of 55 weeks, but it's not quite that simple. That would be a simple moving average. There's a formula with the exponential moving averages that changes it up a little bit, but more or less, yes, it's like the average of the last 20 to 55 weeks in the format of a ribbon, iterations of every five iterations. Yeah. Anyway, difference of 5 iterations between each line. Crossing up like this, having a consolidation like this, and then crossing up. I mean, look at how bullish that was, right? This is probably going to be very bullish as well. Same thing over here. You were crossing up. You're very tight, and then you expanded. We're in that expansion phase, or at least if this week comes up a little bit, if we don't cross below the ribbon, we're in this expansion phase. If we cross below it, that's another conversation. We'll get to that, but I don't think it's going to happen. 3-day time frame doing the same thing here. Bearish cross, but you didn't. It was kind of a false cross in itself. You're coming up, flipped it, back tested for support, gonna rip. Looks very bullish. Daily time frame here. You got below the ribbon, but that's okay. You know, in bullish formations, you actually can go below the ribbon. Here, you know, you went below the ribbon, continued to grow. Went below the ribbon, had a false cross, continued to grow. I'm not worried about that at all. The fact that we're below the ribbon, all we have to do now, we're not below it now. All we have to do now is get back above it before it crosses down. So you want to see the average altcoin. I would say in the next like week or two, we need to move up at least 3.5%. I think we're going to do that. So that's the one thing that's not firing. Once this gets up above there, once we move up 3.5% on for the average altcoin in the top 125, we'll be firing on all cylinders, daily, 3-day, weekly, monthly. They're all going to be bullish. I got nothing else for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe. If you didn't get the gist of this video, the main point of this video is that the average altcoin is going to do anything from a 3 to a 4.2x between now and the end of August. That's the standard. If you're invested in something that's failing to meet that standard, well, it better be Bitcoin, or it better be some coin in the top 10 that's a more secure bet, right? But I think even every coin in the top 10, except for USDT and Bitcoin, they're going to do a 3 to 4x between now and the end of September. So you should at least be hitting that. If not, you've got a dud. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. Take care of yourselves, all right? Bye-bye.